keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. He gets sweeter and sweeter as the days go by. Oh, what a love between my Lord and I. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. He gets sweeter and sweeter as the days go by. Oh, what a love between my Lord and I. I keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again.
Good evening. Glad to have you back as we continue on in our study of falling in love with Him. I did not mention this morning the appreciation I have for Chad Napier as he filled in for me last Lord's Day, both in the morning time as he spoke about having a heart for God and how God looks upon the heart and how that just fits in so much with even what we talked about this morning and having that fear of the Lord and that heart for seeking after God and trusting God and having our hope placed on God's deliverance. And then as Chad was also willing to fill in not only in the evening time, but to continue on in our presentations of the Gospel of John. And he did such a great job in bringing out the lessons of John chapter 14 with the promise of the preparations that he has made for us, the way, and the truth, and the life, the only way to the Father, and the beautiful promise of the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, the Advocate, and that peace that He promises to us. And I think as we spoke about this morning, that peace that God promises comes to those of us who are having our vision clearly focused upon God and having that healthy fear of God that does what we spoke of this morning, drives us to seeking after Him even more fervently, knowing who God is and wanting to obey Him and submit to Him and not rebel against Him and not reject Him and not replace Him, but to have that full confidence and assurance that He is God and He is in control. And so this study on the Gospel of John, helping us to come to know Jesus even more, not just know about Him, but truly know Him and hear these words that can also bring us clarity and comfort in that relationship. And so let's just open up our Bibles to John chapter 15 and continue on in this study. Here, Jesus begins by making the proclamation, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. So remain in me as I remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me." And that fits in so well with what we spoke about this morning. We are going to live very unproductive lives, fruitless lives, if we lose our vision and lose our appreciation for God and for who He is, and for Jesus and what He has done. And so he goes on in verse 5 to repeat again, I am the vine, and you are the branches. This I am, this is another one of the I am statements that we have already come across several times in the book of John, and we will come across more as we think about these I am statements and the power of that, hearkening back to God telling Moses, you tell my people, I am who I am. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. Now that's interesting. We can do all things through Christ, Paul tells us in Philippians. But apart from Christ, we really can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. But if you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Now think about that. Think about how important that is, to remain in Him so that we can bear fruit and bring glory to God. And he uses the analogy here, if we do not remain in Him, we are like branches that are thrown away and destroyed in the fire. So be careful as we think about the importance of remaining in Him and what that means. And I would challenge you to tie that in back to what we talked about this morning, and having that healthy fear of the Lord, and recognize if we don't possess that, if we reject Him, if we rebel against Him, if we replace Him, then we are in a dangerous position as we stand before God. And I understand and have been an advocate and a proclaimer of God's love and God's grace, but don't ever allow Satan to cause you to diminish the importance of still maintaining that healthy fear of God, to think that it doesn't matter. We can rebel, we can reject, we can replace God, and He will accept all of that. I just think the Bible is very clear in the challenge that each of us are to have in our walk with God, that if we were to find ourselves in that position, to do as we spoke of this morning, and that is to repent and to return to God. He goes on in verse 9 to say, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in His love. I've told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And you are my friends if you do what I command. And so this is even back to what we have seen about God's command to love each other. The greatest command, love God supremely, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. He goes on in verse 15 to say, I no longer call you servants, because servants do not know their master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. And then he gives a powerful observation here. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. And once again, that hastens to what we spoke of this morning. We are not to be worldly. We're not to be of this earth. We recognize this world is not our home. We're just passing through, and we have our sights set on eternity, and we trust in God. And so this is why the world hates you, he goes on to say. Remember what I told you. Servants are not greater than their master. And so if they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they obeyed my teaching, then they will obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not be guilty of sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. Those who hate me hate my Father as well. Jesus talks about that on many occasions, and that is what got him in more and more hot water with the religious leaders, that a rejection of him was not merely a rejection of him. A rejection of him was a rejection of the Father. He had just stated, as we pointed out just a few moments ago in chapter 14, I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. He goes on in verse 24 to say, if I had not done among them the works no one else did, they would not be guilty of sin. As it is, they have seen, and yet they have both hated me and my Father. But this is to fulfill what is written in their law. They hated me without reason. We have already seen not all, but we've seen many of the mighty works that Jesus did in his earthly ministry. Many of them right in the presence of some of these religious leaders that continued to reject their very eyes, would attribute it to Satan's work, would attribute it to blasphemy, would give all kinds of reasoning other than just to simply accept it for what it was, God's working through Jesus. You might remember that amazing passage in John chapter 3 with Nicodemus, one of the Pharisees that came to Jesus by night, and he simply confessed, Rabbi, we know that you've come from God, because no one can do the things that you're doing unless God be with him. And so this is what Jesus is referring to here. Even though they've seen these signs, even though they've seen the works that I've done, they continue to not only reject me, but they reject my Father, and they are hating me without reason. And then he closes out this chapter with this beautiful observation. When the advocate comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, and he defines who that advocate is, the Spirit of truth, who goes out from the Father, he, the Spirit, will testify about me. And then verse 27, and you also must testify, for you have been with me from the beginning. This beautiful promise of the advocate. In other places we've pointed out the Spirit is referred to as the Comforter, this one who will indwell us, this one who is like a deposit or an earnest from God until that final reward is given to us. That Spirit is there. Paul talks a lot about the Spirit in our lives in Romans chapter 8, not the least of which is one who comforts us, who intercedes for us, who leads us, who guides us, who helps us in times that we don't even know what to pray for, and yet he is there on our behalf. And he is to empower us to be able to keep that clear vision that we spoke of this morning, that is given to us for the purpose of helping us not to be lured away but to continue to stay in step with the Spirit and not give way to the carnal. There is all kinds of discussion throughout God's Word about the fruit of the Spirit and the fruit of the flesh. The fruit of the flesh brings death. The fruit of the Spirit brings life. And so continue on in your walk with God. Continue on in keeping your focus. Continue on in your striving to come to know Jesus even more closely, because as you do, you will just continue to fall in love with Him over and over again. God bless you.
I keep falling in love with Him over and over.